Have you ever wondered, if I'm audited by the IRS, what should I do if I agree with the auditor's changes? I'll tell you. Hi, I'm Jeff Fouts, a tax attorney located in Metro Atlanta with a nationwide law practice helping clients who have serious IRS problems. So, if you're audited by the IRS, what should you do if you agree with the auditor's changes? Well, there are possibly three outcomes to an IRS audit. The best outcome is that the auditor decides to not make any changes to your tax returns and you end up not owing any more tax. But there are two other outcomes of an audit that aren't quite as good. The second possible outcome is where the auditor makes changes to your tax return and says you owe more taxes and you don't agree with the auditor's proposed changes. I'll discuss that in another video. The third possible outcome is where the auditor makes changes to your tax return and says you owe more tax money and you do agree with the auditor's proposed changes. I'll be discussing this and what steps you should take if you agree with them making the changes during the audit. Upon the completion of your audit, the IRS auditor will issue a final audit report. That's called the Revenue Agents Report, the RAR. And that report lists any changes he's proposing to make along with the revenue agents, along with his or her written discussion points regarding these changes. Of course, it's not a surprise to anyone that the most common audit outcome is that there's some adjustments or changes to the taxpayer's tax return. And it's also not a surprise that the adjustments or changes by the auditor usually aren't in the taxpayer's favor, meaning that the IRS says that you're going to owe them more money. Surprise, surprise. But if you agree with the changes to your tax return that the auditor is proposing, you can sign the final audit report and send it to the auditor. If you can afford to pay the proposed increased tax amount, well then mail the auditor a check with your signed final audit report. And what this will do is this will limit any interest that you might be charged on the balance so that the accrued interest is very low. If you cannot afford to pay the proposed tax increase due to the audit, you can sign the final audit report and return it to the auditor, and the audit changes will assessed or be processed to your account. But what you can do, a third thing you can do, is to buy yourself a little more time. You can decide to not sign the final audit report, and the audit changes will assess, but they will take longer to assess and show up on your account. But this will cause more interest to accrue on the tax debt. But it will buy you some time to figure out what you want to do or to, hire someone to help you understand what your options are. If you don't send full payment in with the signed final audit report, you will eventually receive a balance due letter from the IRS stating how much they say you owe them, and your case will be transferred to the Automated Collection Division, also called the ACS, of the IRS. Unless you're able to pay the tax debt in full, this is the point in time where you'll need to know what all your options are to deal with the tax debt, including potentially settling for less than you owe. Okay, so in all honesty, even if you can scrape and rake up the money to pay the tax in full immediately after the audit is done, if you're going to have to borrow that money from someone or borrow it from the bank, I would not do that until you were able to see what all your options were, because you don't want to borrow that money if potentially you can settle it for less than you owe. And but if you borrow the money and pay it, then that's over. Now the debt's paid in full. So anyway, once it reaches this point, it's my honest recommendation is that you seek professional counsel to figure out what other options you may have. So I hope this important video tip has helped you understand the IRS a little better and about how tax problems are solved. Chances are you have questions or concerns about your own particular tax problem, your own particular tax audit, for example. What I encourage you to do is pick up the phone and call me. I can answer your questions. Over the past 20 years, I've represented clients in all 50 states and 29 foreign countries, and I welcome your call. You can reach me at 800-509-2770 or by email at jfouts@taxhelpattorney.com. I'm Jeff Fouts, and thanks so much for watching. Have a great day.